Buzz, 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 and welcome into the Yellowjackets Hive for the first post season 3 episode. The first of many while we're waiting during the hiatus, however long that ends up being to be determined. Come on, season 4 renewal news. I hope to see that news every single morning when I wake up and peruse social media. I just keep telling myself to have patience. Good things will come to those who wait. So, today I have a special episode for all of you. I'm going to be joined by Ashley Sutton, aka Hannah, the frog scientist, in just a minute. And I don't know about all of you, but I myself have been very curious about Hannah and her role within the microcosm that now exists out in those woods for those girls and Travis. Hannah's arrival into this season was something that I literally never saw coming. I mean, her being a frog scientist, anyways. It had been speculated among the fandom that there would be new people introduced at some point, and to be honest, I wasn't really the biggest fan of that idea when it was first proposed, but after being introduced to Hannah and company, it worked out way better than I ever expected that it would, and it flowed really well. It was the biggest shock of the season in my opinion. So, without further ado, let's bring Ashley on and get the chat started. Hi Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, like I said, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know that the fandom, this fandom especially, really loves the opportunity to get to hear from anybody on the cast about what goes into creating the show. So, what has it been like for you over the last few weeks since the general public has learned what your role on the show actually is?
Oh man, it's been a life changer in some way. You know, people had so many theories when they announced it on Deadline, and I was reading all of them. They were so fun to kind of see what people were thinking, but it's just so great that it's finally out there. Like we've been keeping this
Yeah.
secret since October. So I haven't told anybody. I hadn't told my mom, so I'm just glad it's all out there. I couldn't I
Wow.
couldn't ruin it for her because she's a fan
That,
of the show.
that's
And
fair. That's
that
fair.
reveal is so good. It's so
Yeah.
shocking, and to know that, I couldn't break anybody's heart by letting them know about it.
Ooh, that must have been really hard for you to keep that a secret for that long. I mean, I know I would have had a hard time with that.
Yeah, definitely very difficult. A lot of like redirecting conversations or just being like, yeah, nothing's been going on. I have nothing when, I had this like really cool secret. And I think,
Yeah.
just a storyline and a character introduction that we don't get in most shows where you just like this character comes in and kind of like stakes a claim on like the time and the storyline, and it's really cool to be able to do that. I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a great addition. It was that at the end of episode 6 when you all showed up was the biggest shock I think I've had for the whole show as a whole. So, very well done. And many people, including myself, were convinced that you were going to be our pit girl. And it really seemed like you were going to be until Shauna interfered and messed with the draw, like we all saw. Did you know that that's how things were going to go down, or did you only find out the same way as everybody else?
I found out kind of as we were getting the scripts and reading them. So I came in assuming that I was Pit Girl as well. I rewatched the pilot. I was just kind of like, well, what happened that we know happens? And then I got, the script and was like, oh, okay. She's just a complete like red herring, which makes sense. Everyone is
Yeah,
going to assume that she's Pit Girl, and that's how the storytellers wanted to tell the story. And I think it's great because it gives, the heartbreak of losing Mari, the character that
yeah.
Alexa created, and just the beautiful journey we saw Mari go on this season. Like I fell in love with her. She's so
Me
funny.
too.
She's so cool, and she
Yeah,
like stands up to Shauna in so many ways. So I see
yeah.
why we had to have our hearts broken, but I definitely thought, I was gonna be Pit Girl.
Yeah, I from the get-go, I thought that it was Mari, but when your character was introduced, it just threw a huge wrench in all my theorizing. But like you said, I think that that was what they wanted to do. They wanted to keep us all guessing as much as they possibly could. Uh, did you think before you read the scripts though, you assumed that your character was going to be in the pit, correct? That was your
Mhm.
assumption too?
Yeah,
That would be my assumption if
It
I were.
was my assumption, like, first day on set, I remember meeting Samantha in the trailer and being like, "Yeah, I'm assuming I'm Pit Girl, right?" Like, they didn't know the answers either at the time, but yeah, that was definitely the assumption, like, showing up on set.
Do you think that they made your character have that long dark hair in order to throw some confusion into the mix? Because that was what got me, was the fact that you had the long dark hair. And when they show you in episode 7 when your hair actually comes down, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, she has to be Pit Girl. And Shauna pulling the hair off the tree
Yeah.
branch, like all those subtle little clues just made me really think that's where they were going. So
Yeah, Shauna keeping the hair like a creep was so
yeah,
creepy. That's, like, such a
so
creepy moment.
creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, Ashley, Lyle, and Bart, the creators of the show, mentioned in an interview that they had always planned on the frog scientists coming in. So I think
Mhm.
that this was something they pitched in the room when they pitched the show. And I don't know really necessarily what they were thinking as far as like the storytelling of all of it, but I do think that they at the same time could introduce Hannah and have her be this like red herring for Pit Girl, because the fans got so obsessed after the pilot of figuring out who Pit Girl was, and it became this like huge question that I
Yeah.
think it was kind of a fun way for them to play with us and like our minds. It's very psychological, so like it really opened up. I mean, there were so many questions. Then there's like three
Yeah.
contenders, and it's like, who is Pit Girl? You know?
Now I know you have said that you yourself are a fan of the show, that you auditioned for the pilot. When you initially auditioned for the pilot, what was the original role that you auditioned for? Was there one in particular, or you just auditioned for the show in general?
I auditioned for a role that no longer made it into the show, so I guess, like, for creative, reasons, it didn't make sense. It was, pre them leaving to go to national, so it was
Okay.
still in this timeline, just at a different point of
Yeah.
everything, and honestly, had I booked that, probably wouldn't have lasted as long or been as
Yeah.
cool as Hannah. I feel like Hannah, like, when it came through and I figured out, like, Hannah kinda changed the whole show.
Yeah.
She is so she's causing so much chaos in the present day timeline,
She
and,
is. Yeah.
like, she's not, I mean, not here, we've seen her obituary, but she's still causing so much chaos with them,
Yeah.
so it's really, like, a dream come true and kind of like a blessing with, like, timing and things work out how they're supposed to work out, because Hannah truly is, like, such a gift.
Yeah, I thought this season was great, and like I said, that introduction it was just so good. I'm not sure if you know anything about this, but when it was announced that you were going to be joining the show, the fandom obviously took some guesses as to who you were going to be playing and tried to figure it out. And a good portion of the fandom seemed to latch onto the idea that you were possibly going to be playing Shauna's mom in the teen timeline, and that we were going to see more of that third timeline that we saw in season 2. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, that was my favorite theory, that I was gonna be Deb Shipman, and I just would, like, giggle because, obviously that's not what I was, playing, but it was really sweet and kind because they were like, "No, she looks like Melanie and she looks like Sophie. She's definitely gonna play their mom," and they were, like, doubling down on it, and I'm like, "Oh, guys, just don't wait a minute, I'm not." So it was really fun. That was my favorite theory, that I was gonna be Shauna's mom.
Yeah, this fandom, they get very, very attached to their theories too, and their thoughts. So
It's
that
such
was
a
one I
creative
didn't
show.
personally think that, but I saw it everywhere. And I'm in a big Yellowjackets group discussion group, and that was talked about so much in that group.
I
So
love it. I love because the show is so creative. I feel like the fans use their imaginations to, like,
yeah.
fill in all of the holes, and, that's the kind of show that it is. It's supposed to leave us all these questions that we want the answers to, and then hopefully by the end of it, we'll have all the answers. So I think it's really fun to see where all of the fan theories go and how their
Oh
imagination
yeah.
stray them in different directions. It's really fun.
I agree. It's probably my favorite aspect of watching the show is getting the chance to develop theories with everybody like weekly and see where they all pan out. It's just so much fun. So, what did you think the first time that you read the scripts that you were given? What was your initial take on it?
I think initially I was just if we're talking about Seven, if we're that script in particular,
Mhm.
I was just shocked that we were getting to follow Hannah and Cody and Edwin for so long that
Yeah.
it kind of becomes almost like a show within the show. It's like a different show.
Mhm.
You're watching a different show in the beginning. And then the moment, the Edwin axe happens, I realized I was then in a horror movie. So then we're like in a whole different like genre. We're just in a horror movie. And it's like, oh, is she gonna survive or do something ridiculous that she doesn't survive? So it was just really fun to have like a different show to come into and then
Yeah.
fall into in episode 8 the actual show that exists. Like that just doesn't happen in anything
Yeah.
anymore, and I felt like it was really lucky for at least Joel McHale and I that we got to like play this whole different like funny, really like quirky cute show and then fall into the horror of Yellowjackets.
Yeah, I mean, the axe in the head was definitely horror for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of people commented that your character, when your boyfriend in the show is axe murdered, that like you didn't really have any
Yeah.
reaction to it. Like
Yeah.
it was almost like something that you had seen before. And I kind of just interpreted that as you like survival of the fittest. Like you knew right away that if you reacted, like you were gonna be next. That's how I took it anyways.
I also, I keep seeing this comment. They're like, "Oh, she didn't react to it." And she was in the woods to find frogs. Like
Yeah.
she stumbled across these people doing this like weird ritual around the fire and then
Yep,
this happens. I don't even think she even knows what's happened yet, which is why
that's true.
Cody grabs her and is like, "Run," because she's in like such a state of shock that
Yeah,
she's not even processing that someone axed him in the head. It's just very it's all just so shocking. And so,
yeah,
he hasn't I don't even think until episode 10 do we see her processing anything. And
yeah.
really that's that, our costume designer Marie was like, "Hey, do you want to wear some of Edwin's clothes in 10?" So I'm actually wearing some of the clothes that Nelson had for his character.
Oh,
I feel like
cool.
is the moment she starts to process because she's like, "Okay, he's close to me. I can like he's here. He's not
Yeah.
here. He's here." But everything else is so shocking. Can you imagine if you walked into the wilderness and just saw that and then that happened?
No,
It's
not at all. That has to be the last thing that you're expecting to see when you're out there for a reason, like looking for frogs. You don't expect to come across a group of cannibalistic teenagers that are eating their soccer coach.
that are
So,
like dancing around a fire in like these crazy like animal skin things. Like
yeah,
it is just so not normal that Hannah doesn't it's not registering. Like Edwin, the axe is not registering. Like she's just like honestly frozen until
yeah,
her and Cody are kind of running and she's like, "Well, we need to go back to camp." Like she's saying all these ridiculous things. "We need to go use the phone that they
yeah,
broke." She's really trying to like figure it out in that moment. And he's like, "Hey girl, you need to get it together or you're not going to make it." And then she, kind of goes off by herself. And I feel like that's when it finally feels more real when she starts to leave
yeah.
that message for Alex. Is like, "Oh, I'm going to die. We're all going to die. This is the end."
Why do you think that when she's hiding from them, that she chooses to come out at the moment that she comes out at? Like when Natalie and Shauna are standing there, like Shauna's the last person I would have revealed myself to in that situation.
Well, she doesn't know that
That's true. Yeah,
necessarily
that's
yet.
very
She
true.
doesn't know how terrible Shauna is, but she can see through the hole that they've seen her footprints.
Yeah,
So she knows they're gonna find her. So they're either gonna find her and she's gonna be like vulnerable and laying down and have no power, or she stands up and like is like, "Hey, I promise you I'm not gonna hurt anybody. I don't have any weapons," and hope that there's like some humanity left in them.
yeah,
Doesn't know yet that most of them have like lost all humanity. Um, but yeah, I think it's just this moment for her where she's really able to stand up for herself. Like I truly felt like it was her first time being able to do that for herself. And
yeah.
she kind of like has no choice. It's either like
It's
take
true.
it lying down or like try to fight back.
Yeah. And I mean, she had no idea where she was.
Mhm.
So if she would have stayed there, then she would have been lost all on her own. So I might have revealed myself too, just so I wouldn't be alone,
And
because
she
that
heard
would
the
be scary.
gunshot. She thought Cody was dead. So she truly thought now she is stranded out
Yeah.
here. the only
Yeah.
option is to like maybe team up with them and see if they'll help her.
Yeah. That would be the logical thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what was it like stabbing Joel McHale through the eyeball?
Well, that was really fun. I read the script for that and I was just shocked because I didn't know that was happening. Well, I knew, it was the end of the episodes that Joel was, contracted to do. So I
Yeah.
knew that he would be dying at some point, but then that I got to do it was really fun. It was really,
Yeah. That
you
would be fun. That seems like it would be fun.
Yeah, I love gore and I love horror, and so I love, like, the practical effects of everything, so to
Yeah.
see all of that in action and, the blood draining out of the prosthetic that they put in his eye was really cool, and that moment afterwards of just feeling powerful, or Hannah feeling powerful that she actually could take someone's life, even though
Yeah.
it's traumatic and she didn't mean to do it, she didn't really want to do it, but she had no choice because
Yeah.
if it wasn't him, it was her and Natalie.
Yep.
So again, like here she is making decisions that she kind of feels forced to make. But I do think she is just like intrigued by the power, all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's intriguing because you're in a foreign place in the sense that you're in the middle of the woods and there are no rules.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. And speaking of that, do you personally believe that she only killed Kodiak for like self-preservation, or do you think she was really beginning to like buy into the fact that they have these beliefs? Because to me, it came off like she was doing it to survive. Like she knew very well if she didn't do that, like you just said, that it was going to be her and Natalie. Like they were both going to die. So,
I personally think it is that she is trying to survive to the next day. I think
yeah,
all of her actions are really motivated by that. You're talking about someone who is a scientist who's studied survival. She literally has studied all of this. So she has read it in books for years and years, and now it's like practical. It's like putting it into practice.
yeah.
And, even joining up to be on Team Shauna in that moment,
Hmm.
like, I want to be a part of this. I think she knows she has to play the game a little bit until she can get the upper hand again, which she
Yeah,
does in 10 when she convinces Natalie that she is on their side, which I think is truthful. I think she is team Natalie. I
yeah,
think she is team Go. She wants to leave and she wants to get as many of them home, but she sees the power that Shauna has. They're all terrified of her. And she doesn't know necessarily what Shauna's done. So in her head, it's like, well, clearly for everybody to be afraid of her, she's had to do something pretty drastic because
yeah,
everyone, Shauna says, "Oh no, you're all staying." And they're like, "Okay, we'll stay." Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
that's crazy.
It would, yeah, that was crazy. That really took me back. Like, I feel like strength in numbers, like, why didn't you just overpower her? But obviously, we wouldn't have a story if they just overpowered her.
Yeah.
So, were you clued in on the fact that you would essentially be helping Natalie sneak off to call for help, or was it a surprise to you like it was to the rest of us? Because I realized that something was going on when Hannah was following Natalie, but I didn't make the connection that they switched spots until they pulled that mask off her. I was like, "Oh my god." That shocked me so much.
It's such a good reveal. It's so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, until I read the script and then I had to read it again because I was like, wait a minute, what happens? And I don't think I fully like formulated what was really happening until I went into my fitting and they were fitting me in Natalie's clothes. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. And they're like, this is for like you guys switching. And I was like, oh, I'm actually going to be playing Natalie the rest of the script. So then I had to go back and be like, okay, so now you're Natalie in all of this because now you're the butcher. Now you're the one who's going to be preparing the
Yeah.
um yeah, so I mean I didn't know until I read the script and then I was like, "Oh, I get it. She literally is the reason, Natalie doesn't get found out right away because
Mhm.
had Natalie left and Hannah just kind of done her own thing when Sophie was like, or when Shauna was like, Natalie, prepare the feast, Natalie
Yeah.
would have been there. And it would have been so noticeable that I'm sure they would have all started searching for her to see where she went off to.
Yep. And I felt really bad for Hannah when I made the connection that she was the one that actually had to butcher Mari. Like, poor Hannah putting her in that, poor any of them putting any of them in that spot. But to be somebody like a frog scientist that just comes in to this scenario and you're thrown into it not by choice, none of them by choice, but really not by choice in her case. And she had to do that. I just felt so bad for her. I
I
felt
know.
bad for any of them having to do it to Mari because
She's
like
the
they
most
said,
equipped. She's the most equipped. Like she
that's very,
studies
yeah.
stuff, you know? I keep seeing that online too with the fans who are like, "Oh my gosh, how did she know how to do it?" Or they keep asking me questions and I'm like, "Well,
A
she's went to
scientist, yeah,
school."
so she is equipped, yeah.
She had to take anatomy, like, there's, like,
Yeah,
very specific stories I weirdly had created around Edwin and Hannah to, like, get their relationship really, like, solid in
mhm.
myself, and one of them was the anatomy class where she went in and she had to do this lab and had a panic attack, and, like, Edwin helped her get through the panic
Oh,
attack 'cause it was very stressful to even, like, look at a cadaver
yeah,
body to
yeah,
have to do that, so I had weirdly specifically created a story, so when that came into play, I was like, "Well, great, she's kind of already done this, and she's already freaked out about it. So now all she has to do is just, like, get through it, like Edwin told her, "Just get through it, you can do it."
yeah,
And she has the skills because she's learned it all. It's just having to do it in real life
yeah,
does suck.
that's very true, yeah. So, do you yourself have any guesses as to how Hannah is going to meet her end? We obviously know she doesn't make it till rescue, given that we saw her obituary being read by Shauna, and it just very much seems like she's not still alive in the present day. So, do you have any personal guesses?
I I mean, I really have no idea what they're gonna do, but my hope is that she sacrifices herself for the greater good.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, I'm older than everybody. Like I'm older than everybody in the Yellowjackets team and Travis. So for me, it's like seeing so much of myself as a kid in them and
Mhm.
Alex too, like my own kid in them and how they're all so young. So there was a lot that was coming up when I was playing Hannah in 9 and 10 of just how like I would do anything to make sure that they get to go home, especially the ones
Yeah.
that want to go home. So I mean, I hope there's some sort of like sacrifice for the greater good. I don't know. I think Shauna's going to be very mad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of us that have sabotaged her in 10. So I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of us that are on the chopping block. I don't know how she's going to handle it or how they're going to write it, but I really, truly do hope that Hannah gets to sacrifice herself to like get as many
That
people,
would be honorable, and it would be a lot better than Shauna just flying off the handle and just killing her out of anger, which is
which is
like what
possible.
I see happening. So, the cast seems pretty tight-knit working on the show. What was your favorite aspect about joining the cast for this highly anticipated 3rd season?
It's so interesting specifically for the past timeline because they don't get any other actors. They don't there's
Yeah,
nobody else. Like the present gets like person at the coffee shop or waiter. Like there's other people that get to show up on set and they get to like create and play with for a little bit.
true.
But
Mhm.
for the past, it's been them for it was 2.5 years that they've, filming and
Yeah.
it's just them. So they were just so excited to have anybody else on set. It was like Christmas of like, "Oh my god, we have new people. We're so excited." Which was really great because it just felt very welcoming to like come into a space where people were just excited to have more people to play with and create with and chat with and get to know. And so I'm truly so grateful. They were all very kind to me and welcoming.
Yeah, I spoke with a couple other people from the show this past season, and they had very similar sentiments that they were all very excited for there to be new people that came in. I
Yeah.
think Kevin Alves said for the last 2 years, it's just been us. So it was really nice to have new faces in the mix. And
Yeah.
I get that. It's crazy to think that the show's even been on the air for that long, that it's been that long since we had season 1. I still remember I stumbled upon it on by chance. I just turned on Showtime one night and it was on and I'm like, "Wow, this is so good." I was so excited to binge it and then I realized that it was happening in real time and I couldn't binge it. So, I had to watch it every week like everybody else.
Oh. Tough. The week to week is so tough because the binge, you get to like see the whole story together.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of my family, when I booked it, they binged, so they got to do one,
Yeah.
too, and they were doing it so quickly because it's so good.
It's
And I'm like,
so
I kind of
easy.
wish I had the binge. I kind of want to go back and binge it all because I feel like you kind of see little things that maybe you miss week to
Yeah,
week.
for
But I like
sure.
that anticipation too. I like the like thinking about it all week and being like, well, why did that character look at her that way? You kind of
Yep.
stew on it. That is fun.
So this will be my last question for
Okay.
you. What was your favorite scene to shoot from the episodes that you were featured in?
Yeah, my favorite scene, well, my favorite scene was the scene in 10 with Sophie Thatcher where Natalie has the like stake to Hannah's neck
Mhm.
and Hannah's trying to just convince her that she's on her side. And really, just for me, it was just this moment where Hannah is probably the most real and most vulnerable, like showing her actual true self to them. I think we
Yeah.
see a little bit of that with Melissa when they're in the animal pen, but I really think like raw Hannah is what when she's talking to Natalie. And it just was so fun to film. And Bart, the director, kind of gave me a note and we did it again in a different way. And afterwards he called cut and Sophie and I just looked at each other and just started sobbing because I think that moment
Oh,
is just so pivotal for both of them, where they're both just fighting so hard to make it
yeah.
home and to get people home. And like the humanity of it and the realness of it was like present in both of us. And I think that was just like really beautiful. And it felt like the most, beautiful like twist and arc for Hannah in general because I thought people were going to hate her after the Cody thing. I was wrong. People like
No.
had more respect for her, but I was like, oh, they're going to hate Hannah, and this is like her redemption moment. But I do think for Hannah it felt like a redemption moment because she had done some things that she didn't
Yeah,
really.
I could see that. I
Yeah,
could see that for sure. Things that were out of the norm for her as a person, for sure.
yeah.
So that's about all the questions that I have for you today. Like I said before, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's been a blast to hear your perspective and get a little inside peek into what went into making this wild and crazy season that we got.
Oh my gosh, thank
And I
you.
look forward to seeing you back on our TV screens for season 4 once we get the news that it's been renewed. Yes, I've had
Yeah.
my fingers crossed since the finale aired.
Yeah, hopefully I
So,
hope we get to see what happens to all these characters because there's still so many questions that need to be answered. And I really want to see what happens to present day Shauna because my heart is so broken for her. Like, truly, just how devastating it is that she's now so alone and isolated. So I can't wait to see what
yeah,
the writers and the creators do if there's another season.
me too. I
Yeah.
am right there with you. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily. I appreciate it.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this chat. I absolutely did. It was great to talk to Ashley. She was wonderful. And it really brings me so much joy to be able to bring these conversations to all of you guys. Don't forget to join me this Sunday night at 9 p.m. for a live stream where I'm going to dive into all the answer questions of season 3 and the questions that we still need answered by the end of the series and the questions that we may never get answered at all. That should be a really fun live stream, so don't miss it. And I hope you can all buzz in and join me. I may even have a special guest joining for the episode, so make sure you tune in. As always, thanks so much for watching and supporting the show. It's more appreciated than you guys could ever know. And with that, until I spill again.